Welcome everyone. My name is Chintan Patel, Microsoft Office 2019 365 Specialist Expert, instructor from Benoni, South Africa, and I'll be an instructor for this event titled Microsoft Excel MO-200 Exam Prep. We did this the first time around on the 1st of June. There were some issues, but I've changed a couple of things, especially using a Microsoft Teams meeting environment instead of your live event, right? It was suggested I do that, so I'm trying that out today. I did cover one aspect last week, and that was of importing CSV files and TXT files into Excel. If you didn't check that out, please do go check it out at my YouTube channel, and I will post those details on social media. But here it is again. I'll be putting it into the chat area as well, just in case we didn't get it the last time, or if for any newcomers, this is what the YouTube link looks like. You may switch on your video, you may switch on your microphone if you do have any questions. These are my social media channels. You can get a hold of me via these particular places. I'm active in quite a lot of places recently, so do check that out. I'll post these again on social media once this training is over. Right, there's just a little bit about me. Just this week, or actually last week, I got 2 new badges. Right, so this Microsoft Office Specialist Associate, Microsoft Office Specialist Expert, they just recently released, and I'll be talking about all these badges and certificates towards the end of the course. Right, or I'll make a separate video for that and put it up on YouTube if we don't have a chance to talk about it during these live lessons. Right, because we are meeting in Microsoft Teams, there's just a couple of controls we should be aware of. You should have a very similar environment on your side. You might not see everything that I have, depends on the version of Teams that you actually have. So we'll be just using the chat window quite a bit. Right, so there's a little chat icon you should see. If you move your mouse around, you should see this particular bar showing up. You can also just switch on your microphone and let me know if you have any particular questions. This is the chat box that you'll see. When you click on the chat icon, that's what will show up. This is how the meeting the chat window will look like. At the bottom, you are welcome to type your message. You can put in some formatting if needed. Right, there's quite a lot you can do in here. And before I start, I think it's important that I put up the exercise files for today. All right, so I'm posting a link inside the chat area. Right, so that is the correct link. All right, please click on that link to access your exercise files, and you will be presented with a screen that will allow you to download the files. So let me just open up what that screen looks like so you are aware of how it should look like on your side actually. So let me do that really quickly. Right, so this is what your screen should look like. You should have 2 folders being displayed, and you have a download button in the top left-hand corner. The download should take really quick. There's not a lot of files inside over there. Right, and we will be working with the Manage Worksheets and Workbooks folder first, and then we'll work on the other ones a bit later. Right, so let's get into it. So we don't want to actually waste a lot of time. Last week, I also mentioned that it is very important for us to see the exam objectives. Right, the exam objectives, this is the Excel MO-200 exam that will get you your Excel 2019 Associate certification. And these exams work according to a set of objectives or a set of skills measured. Right, so I'll be posting that link as well in the chat area so you can get a hold of the set of objectives, right? So it's a good idea to just see what the set of objectives is all about. That will tell you what you need to study for the exam, right? Please don't go and study the whole of Excel, not really necessary. These objectives will tell you what you are going to be tested on. And these videos that I'm creating are for that purpose, where I'm going to be going through various examples of how we can possibly accomplish some of the tasks laid out in the set of objectives. Right, so once you have downloaded your files, right, the exercise files that I provided, or you're welcome to watch me completely okay. You don't have to work along with me. You can watch me, you can watch this video in your own time, and I do upload it on YouTube and work through the files yourself at your own pace. Right, but the file that I'll be working with first, let me just open up that particular file, is in our exercise file. We have the Manage Worksheets and Workbook folder. We have the Import Data into Workbooks folder, right? And I am looking at the Contoso Products List exercise file. It's an Excel file on its own. And I'll be sharing my screen so we can also see that particular Excel file in front of us. Last week, or the last time, we covered importing of CSV files, right? So we went through how to import CSV or comma separated value files. And those who were here the last time, anyone remember which tab I had to go to actually start the import process? Anyone remember where I actually went, what tab? You can type it in the message or speak up and let me know.
Data.
Right, yes, thank you, Mr. Rajesh. So we went to the data tab. In the data tab, we went to a group called Get and Transform. And in this Get and Transform, we made sure we select the from text / CSV command over here. When we selected that particular option, we had to navigate to our exercise folder. Right, so I'm just navigating to my exercise folder, going to the relevant folder where I've stored all this information. And we had to go and find the CSV file inside our exercise folder. We also had to make sure that at the bottom right-hand corner, we have all files selected from the drop-down. This is to ensure that you see all of the files inside your folder, because in the exam I did mention that you may find a CSV file or you may not find a CSV file because the computer is filtering down to very specific formats only, right? And to ensure that we see everything, we chose the all files area or this drop down, and then we would find our CSV file, right? So it would show up if you do not have the extension CSV showing up. It is an icon, an Excel icon with the letter A next to it instead of the blocks. We selected that particular CSV file. We went to go ahead and push the import button or open that particular CSV file, right? And we would presented with a window that looks similar to this, where we were given a preview of what the data looks like. But before that, we also had to ensure the correct delimiter is chosen. Anyone know what a delimiter is? Right, maybe from the previous class, or if you're new, if you want to try what the word delimiter means, there's a clue already there. You can use the comments area, or you can speak up. Right, what does delimiter mean?
It will going to separate the data from that, whatever the delimiter I will specify.
That is correct, Mr. Rajesh. Thank you. Right, so it is the symbol that separates text. Comma, semicolon, colon, space, tab, pipe are all examples of characters that separate text. We need to ensure then at the top when we are going to import this, that the correct delimiter is being selected. Right, so we have quite a number of them available. But how do I know that this is the correct delimiter? Well, the data at the bottom will tell you that if your columns are being separated correctly, if you can see the columns separated at very specific places, you see the column headers, then you know you have selected the correct delimiter. Right, so this CSV file was a raw file. It had a lot of information inside, separated by the separating symbol. We want to bring it into Excel to do a lot of cleansing, maybe some reporting, some analysis, and we can then start working with it. And we pushed the load button, and the load button brought everything inside. And on the right hand side, we had a pane showing 1,690 rows loaded. Right, so that was a very simple import process. That's what you would have to do in the exam environment too. If it asks you to import a CSV file or a text file, these are the steps you would go through. But this was importing it into a brand new worksheet. You may also be asked to import it into an existing worksheet. Right, so this is the Contoso products list Excel file that I provided, is that we want to import the very same data maybe or something else completely different into an existing file, specifically in cell A7. Right, so we can see here that A7 is currently selected. Right, so I have intentionally selected A7, and in the exam you may get an instruction that says that please import the data into cell A7. Now, I just want to mention something here is that in the exam, you must click on A7. All right, so I'm just for the purpose of this video, I'm just clicking away somewhere else, clicking again into A7. It's important you click on A7 because the exam needs you to register a certain click. If you don't click on A7, you're going to get that question wrong, right? So don't just assume because A7 was already selected that you may have got the question right. You just need to click again, click on the specific cell, click on the specific area again to ensure that the exam registers your click on that specific cell. Right, so we click on cell A7, we go back to from text/CSV, we find the Contoso products CSV file, we push on the import button. This time though, we're not going to click on the load button, right? We're going to click on the arrow next to the load button, which has load and load to. So this time we're going to push the load to button because we need to specify where exactly we want to put the data. We are going to be choosing the option of table. We have pivot table, report, pivot chart, only create connection. But for now, it's only a table. We don't want to do anything else. We will look at tables in another lesson. All right, so we also want to make sure that it's imported into the existing worksheet. Right, so the existing worksheet is selected. A7 is then selected. Don't worry about the dollar signs right now. We're going to be covering that in a later topic. Right, so you just need to ensure that if it's going to be an existing workbook where you're importing the data, you need to choose load to and then choose table, choose the cell in which you'd like to import, and you just push OK. Right, goes through a couple of some processing, and your data is then imported from A7 onwards. Right, so it's in a table format. We have fancy formatting going on. Right, on the right hand side, you might have a pane showing up that 1,690 rows have been imported. All right, now when also bringing data inside, you may see alignment is completely off. You might see that columns are also maybe not fitting. Please don't go and change that. Right, a lot of people fail the exam because they have this obsession or this real need to go and fix everything up, make sure columns are looking great, or auto fit column width is switched on, your rows look very much readable, your text is not overflowing. That's most important. Right, please do not touch anything. If the exam does not tell you to fix the file, to fix the alignment, fix the spacing, leave it. Right, do not touch it. Otherwise, you are going to get the question wrong. The exam just said, the question just said, import the files. That's it. Do not do anything else. If you start doing other things, you will get the question wrong. Just remember that. Right, because I've been through that myself once. I got a question wrong just because I had this obsession, because I'm always working with Excel, and I'm sure we're all working with Excel very regularly. We see something that seems amiss, we would like to maybe fix it up, so it looks professional, it stands out great. Just leave it in the exam. Don't go and do that, right? Because it's testing to see if you can follow instructions, if you can read the instructions carefully and do what is asked of you. Right, so we are going to move on to the next topic of find and replace. All right, so we can save this and close it. You don't have to save it as well. We're just going to close this. I am back here and I'm going to open up the next exercise file, which is in a different folder or a different subfolder. It's stored within Manage Worksheets and Workbooks. We're going to the subfolder Navigate within Workbooks, and we're opening up Contoso Inventory. We have this workbook, Contoso Inventory, which has 3 worksheets, all products, all product categories, all product subcategories, random data, that we are going to be working through just to test some of our knowledge and skills on the list of objectives provided to us. And this first one, looking at find and replace. Right, so find and replace, we might be using that very often. What is it? It's really, you want to go through a workbook or worksheet. You may have figured out that there are certain files that have been maybe spelled incorrectly, or you want to change something in your worksheet, but you want to do it in bulk. You want to make sure that all instances of the word or the phrase or the sentence or whatever it may be is replaced in one step without us having to manually going through it one by one. So we want to navigate to the all product subcategories worksheet. Right, and so I'm going to again just share my screen. I didn't realize that we couldn't see that. Right, so we're navigating to the all product subcategories worksheet. We want to find all instances of the product wireless laser mouse, and we want to replace wireless laser with wired laser. Now we know we might see it's not here. It's a very short list. We might pick up that wireless mice are not in this list, but to test the capabilities of find and replace, we are just going to be using this particular worksheet over here. So how do I navigate to the find and replace command? Well, there's a lot of ways to do that. Right, so how do I go to find and replace? Home tab, editing group. I have the find and select drop down, and we have find and we have replace. You may also want to memorize keyboard shortcuts. Right, so the keyboard shortcut for find is Control F. Right, so I'm just going to put that in the chat as well. Right, so Control F is for find. Right, Control H, H for horse, is for replace. Control R is not for replace, sadly. Right, if we were looking for R for replace, Control R is for right align. Right, so Control H is used for replace. Okay, so what we want to do, we want to find all instances of the wireless laser mouse. So we can go find and select, we can go find. Right, so we first want to find, then we want to replace. Now we can very quickly, easily go to replace, right? But I want to first make sure that whatever I want to replace is there first, right? In the exam, It may ask you to do a replace, right? It's a good idea, it's an optional step. Find it first, right? See if it is there. If it is there, then you can do the replace. So what do we want to find? We want to find wireless laser mouse. Right, so if we go find next, right? When we go push find next, you get an error message. We couldn't find what you were looking for. Click options for more ways to search. Right, so let's follow the instructions. It's telling us go to options and see what is the problem. Why can't it find wireless laser mouse? Well, it was trying to find it within this sheet over here. We want to change this to within workbook. So in the exam, it may ask you to find something, right? But you need to make sure that you're selecting the correct scope. You're choosing workbook, not worksheet. If it tells you to go to a specific worksheet and starts or tells you to initiate the find from there. So it's testing you to see if you know your options for find and replace very well. It's testing you to that if you are able to go to the within setting there and change worksheet to workbook. Right, so when we now change worksheet to workbook, we can go find next. Right, it will jump to the very first instance. Right, we don't need to worry where exactly it is. It's showing up on mine as cell A88. Wireless laser mouse has been found. Right, so just remember the within worksheet or workbook, they may ask you that. We want to replace wireless laser mouse with wired laser mouse. So we can go to the replace tab, which is still in the find and replace window. We want to replace wireless laser mouse with wired laser mouse. Right, now there's one thing also over here which a lot of people skip or fail to do. The wireless laser mouse words are all in uppercase, or that is, the W in wireless is uppercase, laser, the L is uppercase, mouse or M is uppercase. In the exam, if it asks you to do a find and replace, you need to make sure spelling and casing is catered for. You need to make sure you spell it correctly. Otherwise, you will get the question wrong. Even though it will find whatever you're looking for, you're technically changing the data. You're technically completely making one or more of the records different casing to the rest, right? And so you really don't want to be getting a question wrong because you didn't spell it correctly or your casing wasn't correct, right? So it's also making sure that you follow instructions and you do everything accurately, right? So you want to make sure that when you find wireless laser mouse, that wireless has a capital W, laser, capital L, mouse has a capital M, and you are replacing that with a capital W for wired, capital L for laser, and capital M for mouse. Right. So please make sure that you follow the instructions. Please make sure you read very carefully. If you don't read, you will get it wrong. Right. I know it's an exam environment. You might be stressing to finish quickly, right? But please, we do not want to be losing marks because you spelled something incorrectly or you didn't pay attention to detail, pay attention to accuracy. And what we do from here is then we just push replace all, right? And we should get 8 replacements, right? There are only 8 instances of wireless laser mouse in this entire workbook, and we replaced it with wired laser mouse. Right. Any questions? If you want to speak up, you can speak up, or you can tell me in the chat if you have any questions regarding find and replace. Otherwise, we move on.
Okay, basically you are just searching finding this word wired laser mouse. At that time, your cursor was in the third sheet.
Yes.
How it find in the first sheet?
How did it find in the first sheet? Well, when we go to the find and replace box, right? So when I was in the find and replace box, I want to ensure that the options button, right? So we will have an options button at the bottom right-hand corner of the find and replace window. We click on the options button and we're looking for a setting that says within, right? When we change the within option, we change within sheet to within workbook, then Excel knows to search all of the worksheets for all instances of wireless laser mouse. So then from the third worksheet, it will jump to the first worksheet because that's where wireless laser mouse exists.
So basically, in the option, within option, we have to select basically. In the
Yes.
option, we have to select within.
Yes, that is correct. So you must go to the within option and choose either worksheet or workbook. All right. So it is a good idea when we are presented with a question like this to see all the worksheets that we have available, because you don't want to search for something and then you get the error that it could not find it. We could do it now in the in this training session. Like I said, in the exam session, if you can't find something, it gives the error. It doesn't mean you got it wrong. It doesn't mean that that error message will be captured and now you get the question wrong. So we need to maybe just do a little bit of, for a few seconds, pre-reading, see what worksheets we have presented to us. Then, instantly great. It's telling me to start searching from all product subcategories. I know it's not in all product subcategories. I need to change it to workbook first so I can get the question right the first time around. Right. So we want to just do a little bit of reading to see what data you have when the exam question is presented to you. It's a practical environment. See what you have available. Then the first time around you choose the correct option, right? Without going through an error and then changing the settings and options and going to within. Right? You can go through that error. It's okay, completely okay. We might forget to read the files, to see the files, whatever we have, right? But as long as then you know that you have to go to the options button and then go and choose the relevant settings. All right. That's it with find and replace. All right, that's all we should be knowing about find and replace. That we can navigate to find and replace. We can choose, find something, replace it. Right, good to go. Again, within the navigation aspect, right, so when we're navigating within the workbook, talking about that we want to find things very fast. We want to go to specific areas of the worksheet or workbook very quickly. We are looking at now navigating to named cells, ranges, or workbook elements. So what is a named cell or a named range? Right, it is a group of cells or range of cells that have been provided a friendly and meaningful label. Right, so this is another way to identify cells within your worksheet. How do we usually identify cells? We usually take alphabet, letter, row number, colon symbol, alphabet, letter, and row number. So starting point, ending point. Right, so let's say someone asked me to go navigate to cells A9 to, A1698. Right, what I'll do is I would normally click and drag. All right, let me just share the screen again. So I would normally click and drag to select everything. Right, and clicking and dragging just takes too long to select everything. Yes, we can use keyboard shortcuts, right? But another way that we might want to frequently use to navigate to certain ranges. So we're now specifically talking from starting point to ending point. We want to use defined names or named ranges, right? So how do we know, or how do we use named ranges? Where do we start? Where do we create them? Let's first see them in action. We actually do have some named ranges available to us. If we go to the name box is this little white box we have at the left-hand corner of Excel. It's next to your formula bar on the left-hand side. It's above column A, right? We have a little box available. It tells you the location at which your mouse cursor is currently selected in the worksheet. And if you go to the drop-down arrow next to the specific entry in the name box. We should see product category, unit cost. We might see 3 instances of contoso prod, right? If you can't see everything, you have 3 dots next to the name box. You can click and drag and move that to the right just to expand whatever's inside that name box. And we should then have contoso product category, and contoso product subcategory. Right, so what do we want to do here? We want to click on this word called unit cost. When we click unit cost, you will see it jumps to the column unit cost in the all products worksheet. Right, so very easy to navigate. You want to refer to the unit cost. Maybe this is a presentation or you're explaining something, and you need to mention unit cost instead of scrolling to the right, trying to find your column. Right, we have unit cost immediately selected for us just by using this drop-down mechanism in this name box and selecting the word unit cost. Let's also try product category. All right, so if we click product category, it jumps to the all product categories worksheet and selects the column product category. All right, so a very quick way of navigating around your worksheet. Right, we can just select that defined name. It's called the defined name, and it selects a range of cells for us. This defined name is a meaningful label, some sort of label we are giving to our data. Right, so it can be the same name as a heading. It can be something of your choice. Right, in later lessons, we might do it today if we have the opportunity to do that. We're going to look at defining names, and especially where do we use it the most. Right, in navigation, that's one tiny element it's used, but we actually use it in formulas and in different calculations. Right, so what are we going to do? We want to try and create our own defined name just for the purpose of navigating. Right, so we want to create a name for the all product subcategories worksheet, specifically the product subcategory column. Right, so when I go to the name box, I want to see product subcategory available that I can click on, and it must jump to this worksheet and jump to this specific column product subcategory. Right, to do that, we first need to select the data. Right, so data selection is important, and important you select data only, not the label. Right, this product subcategory label is not the data. It is the label representing the data. We can't classify it as the data. And the example I would give for that is saying if you had a bunch of numbers to add up, you don't include the label with the numbers, because when you try to do a sum function with the label and the numbers, you're going to get an error message where you can't say text plus numbers. So the data is only the number. So in this case, the data is only from B10. So I'm in the all product subcategories worksheet, the product subcategory column. Our data is from B10 all the way down to B53. Right, so we need to select all that data. How do we select? We can click and drag. Very easy to click and drag a small selection. If it was very large, or you don't want to be using clicking and dragging, what is the problem with clicking and dragging? In my classes, I always talk about your mouse might fall off the table. You might click and drag too much. You might click and drag too little, right? So then it gets frustrating. Then you might want to use your keyboard keys, right? You might want to use a keyboard shortcut, right? So I'm actually going to yes, if the chat doesn't work, I'm just going to speak it out. Just listen very carefully. Control, you're going to hold down the control button. You're going to hold down the shift button, and you push the down arrow once. Right, so we select B10, hold on control, hold on shift, down arrow once. Please do not hold down the down arrow, otherwise you'll go all the way to 1 million. Right, so we just push that once. We have selected everything from top to bottom. Right, and then if we also want to select, so that was just a second way of selecting things. We can click and drag, we can use control shift down. We can also use the name box, the very same name box where we went to go and choose a name. The very same name box can be used for selecting data, just selection as well if you want to. You just need to type out B10, right? So you type out B10, colon symbol. So the colon symbol is can be pushed if you hold down the Shift key and push semicolon, right? B10, and we push the semicolon B53, all in the name box, right? So we're just typing B10 colon symbol B53, starting point colon ending point, push enter. Your data is also selected, right? So 3 ways of selecting data. Try to get used to using all methods. It is just for you to work faster, right? Because the exam is only 50 minutes. You don't have a lot of time trying to figure out what's the best way to do something. Well, you need to really know that actually. No time to figure out, right? You need to know. You need to select data. Let's use this method and go for it. Right. So we select the data. Right. So B10 to B53. We go back to the name box. So after selecting the data, we go back to the name box and we type out the heading that we want to use a heading as a name as well. We can type out product subcategory. Right, so product space subcategory. When you push enter, you will get an error message. Right, you must enter a valid reference you want to go to or type a valid name for the selection. So one of the main rules when you want to give a name, no spaces allowed. Right, so product, if you want to put a space, keep it as one word. Or what I like doing, because it's 2 separate words, I can put an underscore. So shift and the dash to get your underscore. All right, so product underscore subcategory, and you just push enter. Right, so it seems like something happened. We don't know if anything happened. We didn't get a confirmation message. Maybe we were waiting for something to show up. Great, your name has been defined. Right, you're not going to get any of that. What you have to do is you have to click away, go to the drop down, and you will find product subcategory in this list. You click on product subcategory. All right, let's click on product subcategory, and it will highlight the column. Right, that is your defined name. You have successfully defined a name. You selected the data, go to the name box, type out the name, use underscores if there are spaces, or you can keep it as one word, push enter. An optional step is to click away. So this is optional, you don't have to do it, but just for verification that it is there, you click away, go to the drop down, click on product subcategory, it should highlight your data. Right, so that was very easy to get a name created for the data. Right, so we're going to use a lot of these a bit later. For now, you may be asked in the exam, please navigate to a certain range and then do something with it. It might be adding it up, it might be formatting it, right? So it wants you can click on the worksheet and then navigate that and navigate to that. That is not that's not incorrect as such, right? But it's testing you that if it's asking you to jump to a certain column, which is in another worksheet, they might ask you to another worksheet because that's where defined names are really tested, right? In navigation, is that you go to the drop down, go to product subcategory, and to highlight the column, right? Once highlighting, the exam might ask you to format, it might ask you to do something with it, right? So it's tested your knowledge that you can very easily navigate to any part of your worksheet or workbook and then do something with it without clicking every single worksheet, trying to find what what it's asking you to find, and then going and formatting. I'm not saying that your method is incorrect. If you didn't know that defined names was a way to select data, you can use a long method, but in the exam, certain methods are more correct than others. Right? Microsoft really wants to test your knowledge of whatever is in the objectives. Right? So try to find all possible ways to do something, right? And it's not usually the case, but I've picked up from all the exams I've done, the fastest method, right, might be the one that they're testing you on instead of the longest method. The longest could be the most accurate and making sure you get it right? But we want to see new ways to do things, right? So for a lot of people, that even when I do classes, define names is never used. They've never seen it before. They've never heard of it, right? They didn't know that this name box can do a whole lot of other things just by instead of telling us where our data is sitting, where we have placed our cursor. It can be used for finding different areas or different ranges. It can be used for selecting data. It can even be used for naming data. So many uses for just a box like this. Right. So I am moving on. Any questions with defined names? Otherwise, do look at the video. Right, it might be overwhelming because it is a fairly new area. I don't think a lot of people use it. Right? I haven't seen that. Right, so we want to again still stay within the same topic. We want to again navigate in a much more friendlier manner. Right, so even more friendly than what we have just went through. And what is more friendly, according to what I think, is that if we have links set up, hyperlinks specifically, so we have this website here, we have an email address. This is in the All Products worksheet, the same file. We have a website link, we have an email address. Also on the right-hand side, just next to that, I've created two labels, or three actually. One says go to, another one says product categories, and another one says product subcategory. So I want somebody to very easily see that they can quickly jump to a certain area of the workbook by clicking on these names. What if they didn't know what defined names was? What if they didn't know that the name box is there? I want to make it even friendlier for them by putting labels, putting the word go to. And so when they hover their mouse over product categories, then it almost seems like, yes, this is something clickable, and I can then navigate to that area. So we're going to look at hyperlinks here. Hyperlinks for websites, hyperlinks for email addresses, hyperlinks with defined names, right? So that even gets even crazier, right? So you want to make that defined name something that you can click on anywhere within the worksheet behind a specific word, right? So how do we access the hyperlinks option? Now, in older versions of Office, you used to have the word hyperlink. In the newer versions, Office 365, Office 2019, you will just find the word link, right? It's no longer called hyperlink, right? So if you want to try that out, we can do that on this website first, contoso.com. So if we right click, right, so right click on contoso.com, which is cell B3 in the all products worksheet of still the very same file, Contoso inventory, we will see right at the bottom, link is available, right? We can click on link, which will open up another box showing you to insert hyperlink. So this is one way to get to hyperlink, and probably the fastest, right? I want you to maybe try and use this one more. It's faster to get to this box. You can also, let me show you the other method. You click on your cell, you go to the Insert tab, and in the Insert tab, you'll find a group called links, and you find a command also called link, right? It is correct. I'll say it is a correct method, right? But try to find something faster. Right click, link, straight away, you get it done. Right, in the exam, they might even block out that link option in the Insert tab. You might not even see it there. Right, so then you have to use the other method of right clicking and going to link. Right, we want to link to what? An existing file or a web page. Right, so the first option is selected on the left-hand side. So link to existing file or web page. In my box below, I have something called address. All right, so we're using address here, not anything else above. And again, the exam will test if you can accurately put in the word. Now in the exam, you might also want to use copy and paste, right? I can't really simulate the exam environment here, but you will be able to use copy and paste. So in the instructions area, you can select the wording that's asking you to put in a certain place. You can use Control C on your keyboard, and then in the area here you can push Control V. Right. I don't do that. Right. I'm just worried that if I push the wrong button, I might get the wrong text inside. It might register something else. Right. So just to make sure that I'm typing it correctly, right? So I'm just putting it https://www.contoso.com. Right, no forward slash after that. Right, if there is no forward slash in your website URL provided to you, don't put the forward slash. Right, in the exam, they may have the URL already in place. It might be saved as something that was there already. What do I mean? So when I was typing out HTTPS, you might see another link showing up. So your URL might show up like that, right? You can click on that, right? But a safer option, what I found, is just type it out again. Right? So then the exam knows that you are paying attention to the detail, to the instruction, telling you exactly what you need to type out, instead of it being there already for you. Remember, in the import worksheet, import data into a worksheet section, if cell A7 was selected already, don't assume that you will get the question right. Still select cell A7 to register the click. Right. So something similar here. Maybe just type it out as it is. As you are provided, so then the exam registers that you have typed it out. Right, now before we push OK, one other option they might ask you to change is something called the screen tip. Right, this little button here at the top right hand corner. The screen tip is a hint for this URL. So how does this hint show up? If you mouse over or hover over your URL, it will provide you with a little box telling you what is the URL all about. You know, in these days of malicious attacks and virus attacks and all sorts of things, we don't want to be clicking on random links. So the screen tip really informs the user what the URL is about. So if we click on screen tip, we can choose to put some sort of hint, some sort of text here. Right, so what we are going to put here, this is the website for Contoso store. Right, so when someone mouses over it or hovers over it, this is what they'll see. We can push OK, and we just push OK once again. So your cell B3, where we have contoso.com, changes to a blue color. Right, if we hover over it, you can see the little box popping up. This is the website for Contoso store. And when you actually click on it, I'm not going to click on it now, it will take you to the Contoso website, which will redirect you to the Microsoft website. Right, so that's your clickable link. Right, so similarly, we have for email address. Right, for email address, we right click on cell B5, link. This time we don't choose existing file or web page, but we rather choose email address at the bottom. Now, what is this going to do? When somebody clicks on the email address, it will open up your default email client. It can be Outlook, it can be Mail, right? One of the two. It is a physical program that opens. You won't find it open up Gmail in a web browser or something. It has to be a physical program that you have that you use to check your email. Right, so over here in the email address, you type out info@contoso.com. And as soon as you type out info@contoso.com, you'll see something prefixed before the info called mail-to : symbol. Now, please don't remove that mail-to. That is code for Outlook or your mail client to understand that this is an email address which has been put in behind a hyperlink. So it must know that it must open up Outlook, it must open up Mail, and it must start composing a new email, and it must put the email address in the to field of your new email. If you want to, you can put a subject query on products, for example. Right. So And then again, there's a screen tip option. You can put in a screen tip. You can say something like, this is the product queries email address. So I spelled this wrong. This is. Right, push OK. Right, and we push OK. Again, hover your mouse over, find the screen tip. When you click on it, it will open up your email and your Outlook client, or whatever email client you may have, and put the address in the to field, and you're ready with your message. All right. I know it is 11 o'clock. Just give me 1 or 2 minutes. I want to just finish this topic of hyperlinks with these two words in C4 and in C6, and then we'll stop there. Right, then we continue into the next lesson. Right, so to add a hyperlink behind C4, which is product categories. Right, again, we right click on that, we push link. This time, instead of existing file or web page, or instead of email address, we choose place in this document. It is a location inside here. Right, and when you choose that, you will see your list of defined names in this box over here provided to you. So you want to provide a link to the product categories column, right, which is a defined name. So we can simply click on the defined name product category in this box. We don't need to put a screen tip here. It's still within the same worksheet, right? If you wanted to, you can. In the exam, they don't ask me that, right? So we can push OK. Right, and how does this work then? If I click on this URL here, product categories, it jumps to the all products category worksheet, jumps to the product category column. And then we can just complete that for product subcategories. Right click, link, go to place in this document, define name of product subcategory clicked upon, and we just push OK, and we click on it, and it jumps to the column. In the exam, they may ask you to test whatever you've done. They may also ask you not to test. So a common example we'll see later is also when we set up printing settings. It will tell you set up the various printing settings, but do not click print, or do not export, or don't do this. If it tells you don't do it, please do not do it. All right. Don't. I know maybe you want to test whatever you've done is correct, right? So maybe you click on product categories, it jumps to a specific column. If it asks you not to do that, please do not do that. Right? We may have the urge to go and test whatever we've done is correct. Yes, I told you in today's training session, try to click away and go and see if whatever you have is available. But in the exam, if it tells you not to do that, please do not go and do that. Right. So I'm ending the lesson here. Right. It is 11 o'clock. I'm not going to continue further. All right. We will continue with the session again next week. I think we did have several problems when accessing today's link. Right. I'm still trying to find the best way to possibly do this. I think the next time round, I will definitely email the links out. I will definitely email the exercise files out once again. Right, instead of waiting for an email to come through from the event registration system that I'm using called Quicket. Right, so we will go through the next particular topics in the next lesson. Right, I do appreciate that if you can complete an evaluation, which I'll also email out to you guys. I just need to submit metrics from time to time showing what I'm currently doing, how I'm currently training, how I'm currently working. So in the email that you receive, you receive an email after this, kindly do complete the evaluation. It is anonymous. Right, so please write whatever you like. Please evaluate this lesson. Please be brutally honest. Right, I don't take offense to anything. So please do let me know about that. Right, and I will advertise the next event through all of my social media channels. Right, some of you have me on LinkedIn and other channels too. Right, I will also obviously email out. I'll email out everyone first, right? Whoever subscribed here to this lesson, right? And is there anything else? Okay, but otherwise, thank you. Right, so you are welcome to leave, and we'll continue next week.